So sometimes we have behaviors that we don't really like. We usually can recognize things that we don't do well or that don't work for us. Maybe there's a fact that maybe you're on your 10th time that you've been trying to diet and lose those same 10 pounds, but unfortunately those 10 pounds have gone up to 20 and so on. And maybe those times of working out haven't quite worked for you. It all evolves around changing your behavior. And today we're going to be talking just about that. Good day, Nicole. I was going to say good morning because that's what I always think is good morning. But at this point in time, it's afternoon now, and it's Happy Wednesday.
Yeah.
The time is flying by. And how are you doing today?
Oh, good, 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 good. It was a very early morning for me, like 4 a.m., unfortunately. So I got up and started some work. And then I knew I had to take an important phone call. So I thought, you know what? I've got to go lay back down and do some meditation. Like 20 minutes is all I needed. And it was one of those that takes you quickly, takes you deeply, and you wake up refreshed. So I'm feeling great, feeling ready to go. And I cannot believe we're pushing into mid-December. How?
And while you're talking about that, and maybe we can talk with our guest today, but it's now that we need to start preparing. We can't wait till we get in to 224, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you say, it's 2024. Where am I going to begin? Let's start now. And that's really what it's all about. And this also is a type of a behavioral change that we need to have in ourselves of if you're looking to change yourself, make changes in your life, you actually should have started a little while ago, but now is better than waiting till then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've found something that I wrote down, and it's 10 things before 2024 ends. I didn't get to them. So I posted it. I can see it on the wall above me. And it's like, this is because I didn't do that and wound up kind of diverting my river into other streams. I thought, you know what, this is a really good place to start. And sometimes I wonder if because we practice surrender, if me writing this down maybe 4 or 5 months ago was not meant to happen right then, but was meant for me to find now and have that all ready to go in 2024. I don't question like I used to. I don't berate myself like I used to. I just look at it and it's like, I can do all that. Sure. So I have a starting point.
Lovely. Good.
Yeah.
And that's
And
right.
makes me feel good. So, and we have an amazing guest today that I know is going to walk us through some amazing stuff. So I'm really excited to introduce her. She has a career in education. She taught psychology for a decade, and she brought a profound understanding of the subjects to many of her students, which helped them foster critical and intellectual growth. And I think that's just amazing. She also has 16 years in special education. So Glenda, you and I, like we talked about, we're going to resonate with that very deeply. And she's also an author, of course, and she has contributed in the book Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I can't wait to hear about that because that has been one of my favorites. I think that really started the whole, the writing experience of many authors into one book.
I agree.
Yeah, she has a book called Practical Happiness. And also, Yes, You Can Raise Happy, Responsible Children, which will be published in March. So, with that, I want to welcome to our stage Martha Burich, PhD. I'm so excited to hear from you, Martha. How are you?
I'm absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for having me here.
And with a bio like this, Glenda, I just read over it. I'm like, there's some big wow moments in there. Where do we start, Glenda?
Well, we always have to start where we begin in our lives because we don't just appear by a woman at your level to, you didn't all of a sudden go through school. There's always got to be those turning points that sort of sets us in a direction to where we need to go. And something talks to us inside of us. I'm a very firm believer of that, or it's either something talks to us directly or something smashes in our face or wherever that is, that knocks it out, and where we, it's those really hard lessons in life, and then you realize what you're meant for. So let's find out, how did you figure out which direction you're going? What happened in your life that set you in this direction where you are now?
Well, it all starts with Mom loved my brother best. I have to say it. I was the last of 3 children. I have an older brother. He's 7 years older than I am. Another brother, 2 years older than I am. And then along came me. And, as I grew up, my older brother was a mechanical genius. At age 10, he took apart a television, put it back together again. At age 16, he built his own car. So, pretty much all I heard about was your brother's so your brother's a genius. Your brother's a genius. Oh, what am I, chopped liver? So I seemed to think that when I was 2. And then my other brother, my brother Bill, he was a creative genius. And he would build intricate, he would take cities and build them out of cardboard and plastic pieces of paper for the windows. I mean, he was unbelievable. He was very, very creative. So, and then here I am in an Italian family, the only girl. I got a genius for my older brother. I got a creative for the other one. And they were very popular. And my mother was Miss Popularity. She was a president of, there's an organization then called Parents Without Partners. And my mother was the president. She was very popular, always having parties. Well, me, I had maybe one friend at a time. And here, let me tell you my first story. I'm 8 years old, Billy's 10, and my mother robs my piggy bank because I would not eat. I would save all my money. I was very frugal. And she robs my piggy bank to give Billy a birthday party. I said, Mom, you never give me a party. And she goes, well, you don't have any friends.
Oh,
yes, some people would think that was abusive, but my mom was just her way. That's who she was. She would just be honest. And she was right. I always had one little friend at a time, maybe 2 if I was really, lucky. And Billy and Al were always surrounded by plenty of people. So that caused me a need to somehow be bigger and better, somehow to make my mark. And so education was my way. And let me tell you another story. Okay, so I started college, and I made good grades in high school. One time my the history teacher, social studies, he says, Martha, what'd you make on this test? Oh, I made a B, sir. And he goes, did you study? No, sir. Did you pay attention in class? Well, yeah, I took notes. And he goes, and you still made a B, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, see, everybody, you don't have to work that hard. You can still pass this class with no problem. So, I'm thinking I'm pretty smart. So I go to college. I'm up at 3 a.m. I don't know what the heck's going on. I'm trying to read these psychology books. The words are so big. I got a dictionary. I got this. I got that. I'm crying my eyes out. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I thought I was smart. Well, then, of course, I had to develop a drinking problem in college. So I couldn't handle that stress. So I got kicked out of 2 colleges from drinking. All right. So then one day I'm at home crying my eyes. I had a 1.0 GPA. 1.0. That's a D. Okay. That's so I'm crying my eyes out, and I've been kicked out of 2 colleges. And my mother goes, Martha, go back to college. I said, Mom, they're never going to let me back in. What? I got a 1.0 GPA. She goes, you march right back to that college and you ask them to let you in. So I did. I knocked on the dean's door, and he said, yeah, we'll let you in on probation. You got 6 months. Don't make less than a C. Well, I had matured, figured it out. And then I went ahead and, got a degree and straightened up my act. So here, what's my point? My point is, it doesn't matter how low you are. It doesn't matter how far you've fallen. Just get up. Get up.
And I love that. You're talking my language, because that's been everything that my heart and my life has always been about. No matter how far down you get, you still got to get up and you got to keep going no matter what.
Mhm.
And there you just said it. And at a young age, what a great lesson that you could possibly ever learn to start you moving forward in life.
Mhm. And I got to tell you another story about my older brother. I live with him now, and he's when I'm 69, he's 76. That's 7 years, right? Okay. Well, anyway, because he doesn't have any children, he has this big house. He needed somebody in there, so I moved in with my son and our dogs. Well, anyway, oh yeah. So one day he's trying to explain to me. He was a mechanical engineer, he had his own business, and he just recently retired. So he would do fascinating things, building robots, marrying robots and computers. He'd have to sign all these non-disclosure agreements with Boeing and all these big companies. Well, anyway, so one day he's explaining to me ground fault interrupters, and that's that thing you have in the bathroom that if water gets on it, it pops out, the red button pops out, and the outlet won't work anymore, so you don't get electrocuted. Well, the outlet out on the deck wouldn't work, but the ground fault interrupter was in the bathroom, and I couldn't figure it out. I said, why wouldn't that be out on the deck where you could see there was a problem? And he looks at me and he goes, where you been the past 30 years? In jail? like I'm an idiot, You and your book learning. So still, we still have this rivalry. Mom always loved you best.
Wow.
So, this is a very important detail that we need to discuss, because, you've got all this education, but when you're growing up, what happens to us in our childhood affects us later in our life, unless you're dealing with it right on. And here you're saying your mom, and you knew that mom liked them better than you. So it brought in some feelings to you, maybe not feeling good enough, worthy enough. There were so many different things that I'm sure that happened to you, right? And it affected your self-esteem, and I'm sure it affected your grades in school as well, right? Because if you don't feel you're good enough or worthy enough, it's going to affect how you work on that. So how did you deal with that, or at what point did you actually start to look at that feeling that you grew up with? Because to move forward with that, you had to conquer that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always wanted to be a college professor. Always, always, always. And that just kept spurring me forward. But, I have to say, in my mother's defense, as if she needs a defense, Italians back then, only the boys, the girls. My grandfather made my mother quit school at 8th grade to go to work so she could make money to put my uncles through college. So, so you have that behind you, and you have that. So she had a real history of her own worthiness and her life. And she really was. She was a wonderful woman, filled with so much ability. And if it had been a different world, she would have been outstanding, absolutely outstanding in so many different ways. But yes, I always wanted to be a college professor. So when I got my master's degree, this was so fabulous. I got my master's degree, and they hired me to teach college psychology part-time at the college. Well, that was at the time when they would work you full-time as a part-timer, because they only wanted PhDs in the full-time, to get the full-time benefits and etc. So I'm working all these hours teaching child psychology, sociology, and just having the most fun. I just love those classes. And my students, I took over the child psychology course for a man who didn't have any children. And he was, I think he was 80 something, didn't have any children. And every time he would give a lecture, I saw his notes. He would just read from the notes. Well, at the time when I was teaching psychology, my son was about 6 or 8. Oh, Lord, did we have stories? I had stories. And I took parenting lessons, and I had all those stories, and I had the self-esteem, and we just would have so much fun and do self-esteem exercises and learn about the psychology of children. Oh, I just had so much fun. And the children, the students in that class would come up to me and they would go, this is a whole different class. It's so much more fun now. It's fun. It was so boring. And the man was a lovely man. But, how can you teach child psychology if you don't have any children?
True.
Well, and I understand that, and I believe that's one of the biggest thing of. I believe the same thing of how can you be a life coach when you're 25 years old and you haven't experienced life yet. And it's nothing against anybody, but the best teachers in life are the ones who have lived it. So
Absolutely.
Yes,
it's not by a book.
Yeah.
We can learn to a certain degree, and I could tell you that right off the book. Yes, where the education is so important, but so life experience takes over.
Yeah. And Sally, I have a question for you, because your mother was always so much into your brothers and had to go to work to, put the boys through school. When you finally became a teacher, a professor, did you get kudos from your mom or praise? Or
my mother she was so proud. And
oh, good.
When I was 8, my mother took my Billy, 2 years older than me, so he was 10, took us, and we moved to St. Louis, Missouri to be with her parents because my parents divorced. But my brother Al, he stayed back with our dad. So I was separated from my brother from the time I was 8, and really only saw him maybe once every 10 years or so. So one time I was very upset, and I was crying to a neighbor. I think I was 22 or something, 24. And I was crying to a neighbor, oh, Mom loves my brothers best, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, I didn't know you had brothers. All your mother talks about is you.
Oh, wow.
All
what a moment.
All perception. And then Billy and I were arguing one day about how mom loved you best, mom loved you best. And then we were arguing with one another. Well, she did this for you and she did that for you. All perception, and it's all our excuse making. It's all, and how many people have you heard say the same thing? Mom loved him best, loved her best, blah, blah, blah. And usually it is, in fact, I was on the treadmill with the woman yesterday. She talked about how her daughter said, Mom, you love me less of any of them. And blah, blah, blah. And no matter what Mom says, it won't appease the girl. I said, right. Yes, because she's looking for an excuse for not doing what she needs to do in her old life. You're such an easy scapegoat. Might as well just throw it on you. Well, Mom, you love my brother best, and that's why I have problems.
Yeah. And, that happened to me when my daughter came out here last October. She wanted to talk to me, and she said, I know you, I don't think she said love, but I think she says, I know you like my sister better. And I said, that's absolutely not true. I said, you both have different personalities. I said, but I love you both equally, and I like you both equally. So that was her perception of Maddie's a little more funny. So I would laugh, but there was no distinction between like or love. They're just so equal to me.
It's all perception. And of course we love them the same, but we love them different because they're different people.
They're different. Yeah.
But isn't that what life really is about, is perception? And as we grow, we learn of whether it is of a parent that loves a child more, or a parent that has to. In my case, my parents had my siblings who required had more needs than I did. So since I didn't have the needs, I was sort of put off to the side because I didn't need the attention that they needed. But we perceive different things in our lives. And that's even in conversations of what you go through in a daily grace. Somebody talks to you and says something, well, you might perceive them as being angry or maybe they're, whatever the case may be. And you might actually end up not forging in a relationship because you might perceive something of someone else, and maybe they're just going through their own troubles in life and they're not as open or something like that. Like life is about a lot of perceptions.
And I wonder how often we have a misperception because it lets us off the hook. See, that lets me off. If Mom loved my brother better, well, then I can't help it if I'm not a winner. I just, or I can't help it if I'm not doing everything I should. It's because Mom gave him more attention and I need more. I mean, it's just constant. I think we're constantly looking for things to get us off the hook. So anything will do.
And it's kind of victimizing yourself, if you will,
Yes.
and making
Yes.
excuses for
Right.
or why, when you're every bit as smart, just in a different capacity.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So I understand that one of the things that you major in is helping people changing, if they're having trouble with coping skills or making changes in your life. This is one of your areas of expertise. So
Mhm.
can we move into that and talk about how you go about, if let's say, and I know this area of life all too well. You're looking at you mentioned that you have lost weight and you've kept it off all these years, and I know what that feels like because I have done the same thing
Mhm.
for probably maybe I guess 40 years now,
Oh.
where I've been able to take off. At that point I think it was around 50-60 pounds, and I've
Mhm.
kept it off most of my adult life. But most people you see are on roller coasters,
Mhm.
and but we've got to talk about changing your behaviors and patterns and things like that to be able to do that. How
Mhm.
have
Yes.
you been able to do that, and how do you um, tell your clients of what to do and how to do it?
Well, first off, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision, but you actually make two decisions, and I'll get to that in a minute. But you have to make a decision, and then you have to have a very strong why. A very strong why. Because if you don't, you're going to fall back. But
Yeah,
also, I think the best way to change any behavior, whether it's smoking, drinking, overeating, is number one, decide for today, just for today, I'm not going to overeat. I'm not going to eat that donut, whatever. Just make that intention just for today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Because,
yeah.
if I thought I could never have a donut for the rest of my life, I think I'd go buy 3 dozen donuts right now. It's too overwhelming, too overwhelming. Now, drinking's a whole other story. If you're an alcoholic, you can't have a drink, or bad consequences will happen. As I can tell you stories from the jail, because I do go to the jail every Monday and take an AA meeting. But all you worry about is today. You know what? All I got to do is worry about today. Because if we do the right thing today, tomorrow takes care of itself. But it's when we worry about yesterday, worry about tomorrow, which we can do nothing about. AA has the serenity prayer for a reason. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I cannot do anything about whatever happened yesterday. I can't change it. I can only decide how I'm going to accept it and move forward in this minute. And in actuality, this minute's all we have. An airplane could drop down in any of our homes right this minute. This minute's all we have. So what am I going to do in this minute to have a good life? What am I going to do this minute to enjoy myself? One time, and now we're going to go into mindset. Let's go totally into mindset. I have to have the belief that everything that happens benefits me. Now, a lot of things you got to look and go, well, how could that possibly benefit me? Okay, so one time my car broke down. This is in the book Practical Happiness, which I was interviewed for. And so my car breaks down in the middle. It was like 100 degrees that day in the middle of the road. Luckily, it veered into this empty parking lot of a restaurant that had a covered patio with chairs and tables. So I call the tow truck, and I had a book in my car. So I go and I sit out, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, Martha, now what's the benefit here? And I thought, one, that your benefit because you didn't get hurt, because you can handle this, because you had a book in your car, because it's going to be okay, because the tow truck's going to come. You know the guy at the car center. He's a great guy. You're going to get an opportunity to talk to him. And maybe it's time to start thinking about what you need to do about this car. But, rather than getting myself all bent out of shape and, oh, how could this happen to me and blah, blah, blah. So when I went up to and talked to Noah when we got to the car center, I had to wait 2 hours, by the way, which was okay. I figured, well, you know what? I guess you need this time. So Noah said, well, how come you're not in a bad mood? Why should I be in a bad mood? Life is life. You know, why would I have it ruin my day? These things happen. This is everybody alive? Is everybody healthy? Well, why would I be in a bad mood? You know, so we have to shift. So everything that happens benefits me. Now, you have to make two decisions in everything we do. First, you decide, you know what, I'm going to do it. Then you do it. Okay? So the decision is just in the mind, but then you do it. So let's say I decide I'm only going to eat at the kitchen table. Okay, so all right, I'm only going to eat at the kitchen table. Well, then go eat at the kitchen table only. Do not sit, don't have snacks all where your computer is. Only have that food at that kitchen. Don't watch TV or computer or anything. Scroll your phone while you eat. Just eat. Focus on eat. So you have to make two decisions. The same with drinking. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to drink." And then the next thing you know, they got a drink in their hand. Well, you know what? All you got to worry about is today. Let's just whatever it takes. I used to call myself the Scarlett O'Hara of sobriety because I won't think about that today. I'll think about that tomorrow. And almost every time when I would think back the next day or the day later and like, what were you so bent out of shape about? I couldn't even remember what had me in such a state that I was going to break my sobriety. Just because we don't make, you know, we have to make that second decision and we have to decide and we have to have a why. We have to have a big why. That's why it's so important to write down why. Why do I want to lose weight? Why do I want to change what I'm eating? Why do I not want to eat a donut today? Why? We've got to have that strong why, whether it's the dress we want to get into, whether it's, you know, to look good for a party or a wedding or whatever. Got to have that big why.
Wow, that's interesting. And I heard you say on Mondays you go to a prison and
Yes.
hold the AA meetings.
Yes.
And
Yes.
first of all, I'm curious how you started doing that. But my next question would be, as much as you can teach them, have the inmates taught you anything?
Oh my goodness. I am so blessed to be able to go there. You know, I've been doing that for a year and a half now. And I learned so much from those women about hope, resiliency. You know, one woman, I think she's 30 now, and she told me, this was just last week, she said, you know, I've been in and out of jail since I was 18. And she's a lovely girl, and she's intelligent. And I said, well, are you ready to quit? Are you ready? You know, are you ready to start a new life? But you know what? She hasn't made that second decision because, let me give you another example. All right. I saw a gal who I would normally see at AA meetings, a lovely girl. Saw her at the treatment center. And I said, what are you doing here? She goes, every year during the holidays, I relapse. See, she has in the back of her mind, there's something that she can't handle.
Right.
I can't handle this. I have to drink. She's got to turn that. She has got to flip that. Somehow she has got to say, you know what, no matter what happens today, I will not drink or drug. I had one little girl, I think it was heroin. She had a baby. Anyway, so I would email her and talk to her. I met her at the treatment center. And then she stopped responding. And you know what that means. So then 2 months later, I see her at the treatment center again. I said, hon, what are you doing here? What happened? She goes, my mother died. I said, oh, are you telling me your brother's mother died? Your son's grandmother died? Your father's wife died? But you had to drink over it or drug over it?
Interesting.
See, we're so selfish and self-centered. All we think about is us and our little pains and how things affect us. For some reason, we don't look outside ourselves and say, wait a minute, people need me. You know, especially for the addict and the alcoholic, we're all, well, this didn't work for me. This didn't look what happened to me. Look what he said to me, blah, blah, blah. It's me. And that makes for a miserable life. That makes for a miserable life when all we think about is how things affect us. If she'd have thought for a moment, oh my God, my dad needs me. Yeah. My son needs me. It would have been a whole different response instead of, why did God do this to me? You know, you have all these questions that, for one thing, they have no answers, and they just give you an excuse to do all the things that are going to ruin your life and everybody else's.
Is that from lack of self-esteem, lack of self-love? Possibly.
Po- Possibly. There are a lot of people with very high-powered jobs who a lot of people have to depend on who have drug and alcohol problems. So I really, I really couldn't tell you that. I think it's more a case of, I don't want to get into public schooling, but we get a lot of bad habits in public schooling. I must say, we're taught pretty much in public school that we just aren't good enough. At least that's the message I got.
Yeah, well, I get that. And I think a lot of it has to do with how we grade people and how we decide on, like there's a lot of whole things about that.
Oh,
so I
yeah.
totally understand that. I think the education system has failed a lot of us.
Oh, yes.
So why jail? What brought you into to holding what brought you into jail in the first place that you did
I've
this?
never been to jail. What the heck am I doing in the jail? Well,
That was my next question.
Listen to this story. This is a fascinating story. I'm sitting around at an AA meeting, and and people had taught men usually told about how they go into the jail and how it was very rewarding. And so I'm sitting at an AA meeting, and I'm like, man, I'm bored. I gotta have something more to occupy my mind here. These meetings are getting to be boring. And so I said, you know what? I think it just popped in my head. I don't know why. I said, I think I'm going to take AA to the local jail. I don't think they have anybody there. And the man across the table, he goes, well, good. I'm on the corrections committee. I'll send you the application.
Talk about perfect timing, right?
I know. So a month later, I'm hosting these meetings. And the day I walk in, there's a woman there that I had met a year before. She had, she didn't realize, she didn't think she was an alcoholic when she first came to meetings, just wanted to get herself out of trouble. And well, this time she got herself in a lot of trouble. And she was ready to change. Well, so I'm doing meetings, and she was there for the next 2 or 3 months, and then she got out. And now I have to say she is doing so well. She's working very hard. She does a lot for Alcoholics Anonymous and helps a lot of people. Well, anyway, so I see her at a Christmas party. This was last year at Christmas. And she said, I never told you. I hope I don't cry when I tell you the story. She said, I prayed that I could contact you when I was in jail because I knew from meetings that I could depend on you and that you were solid and that you could help me. And okay, so she says this to me. She goes, so I prayed and prayed that I could contact you. And then she said, and then one day you came walking into the jail.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
That must have hit the heart.
Oh, that's divine intervention.
Absolutely.
That's God. That's God.
Absolutely.
But see, prayers are answered. And you know what? And when she got out of jail, I rarely see her. I see her maybe once every 4 or 5 months. She's doing really good. Her life was really, and she was so depressed at jail. Oh my goodness. She was like, my life's over. I'm going to lose my children. I'm going to lose everything. My husband's divorcing me. I mean, it didn't look very good, but everything has really turned around for her. And I'm just so happy. But guess what? She made the second decision. She made the first decision. She got out of jail and she stayed sober. The second decision is she stayed sober every day.
Wow.
And decided life was worth living and that she was not going to be the weak one. She was going to be the strong one.
It only takes a brief moment to make those type of decisions, but it's holding those decisions strong is the hardest part of it all, because there's so many things that are around to test us.
Oh, yeah. And I tell the ladies at the jail, I say, you know what? Sometimes I get a little down and frustrated and annoyed. And I think to myself, you know what? A drink would be nice. And then I say, that's right, Martha, let's go have a drink. Then what are you going to say to these ladies on Monday?
Yeah.
Who are they going to look to? So
Yeah,
your job is to be a good example. And I think I want that on my tombstone. She was a good example.
Yes.
Well, I believe that in so many ways, that it's very important to people watch us.
Mm-hmm.
And same as, if I believe it's same as being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Your children, no matter how old you are always watching you. So if you don't set proper examples of it, how are they going to learn what is the right and what is wrong?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, make that decision. I'll be a good example today of not overeating, of exercising, of someone said their aha moment, or my what's your in life? Like walking on the beach or whatever. And I said, oh, I think there's something wrong with me. My is when I go to the gym.
That's not a bad thing, though. That's a good thing.
I love it. I go to the gym and I feel like happy. I'm happy. I get up in the morning, I put my shoes by my bed. I have my workout clothes right there. I drink my coffee. I get out and get to that gym. And I don't miss a day. I don't think I've missed a day unless I was out of town. I maybe missed one day in a year.
Wow.
I know. It's
Well, that's the
great.
beauty of having a morning ritual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the rituals and moving ourselves forward, because I think that's one of the important things of life, of having to be able to conquer things that we want to. I think it all starts on how our day starts.
Right. Oh, I let me tell you this. I was reading U Squared. Have you ever read that book? It's a little book by Price Pritchard. And it just, I was reading it to the ladies at the jail, and the page I read said, unwrap your gifts. Every one of us has skills, talents, and abilities that we never use. And so I read to the ladies, I said, I want you to really start thinking about what are your gifts, because that's one of the reasons why we drink and do drugs and overeat, because we don't think we're worthy. We don't think that we're valuable and needed. So I said, ladies, I really want you to think about this. And I already know what some of you are here at the jail. And one lady came to me and she was talking to me. I said, I already know what one of your skills and gifts is. You're the mother. A lot of these women here need a mother, and you're the mother. You have people in the jail, they take the mother role, the grandma role, the sister role, the good friend role, the confronter role. Everybody takes a different role. I tell the ladies at the jail, I say, look, this is a university education. Your life doesn't start when you leave here. Your life is this minute. You start paying close attention. Who has power? Who do people respect? Who do people listen to? Who has power but nobody listens to them? Who doesn't have power but everybody listens to them and believes them? I said, you pay attention to that. When you leave here, you'll be ahead of the game because you'll understand people.
Wow.
And yeah, I think that's one of the major things in life for education is understanding people.
Oh, definitely. Oh, let me tell you this story. They did research on children. I'm working with a little guy that's got attention deficit so bad. He's 9, and he's a smart kid, but he can only do first grade work because his attention is so bad. Well, anyway, so I'm working with him, and so they did research on children, abused children, and how they develop ADHD. Now, this is not this child's problem, but here's what happens. When a child is mistreated by an adult in their life when they're very young, all their attention goes in trying to figure out that person's mood and that person's attitude and how that person's going to act. So from the time the child is a little baby, a lot of them learn not to cry because they figure out exactly when that parent walks in the room what mood that parent is in. So you'll see these little 1 and 2-year-olds, they'll go into a place where there are toys and things, and the child is constantly falling down, tripping over things because they can't focus on their environment. They have to focus on that person and that person's feelings and attitude. That causes many cases of attention deficit.
Wow.
That's just part of it. Now, in our society today, we have screen time. We have parents who are scrolling on their Facebook and the child doesn't get any attention. So he's got to go figure out somehow to get attention. And, now we have a whole bunch of different reasons, but that is one causative factor. And I don't know, can it use the word cause? Correlation. That is a correlation to attention deficit.
Interesting.
It makes a lot of sense because, especially somebody who is being physically abused, they usually in their own ways kind of surrender because they're afraid of being abused again. So, a lot of children who are being abused tend to, they hide back. They go into corners or, pull out so that they don't want to, they become quiet and try to become small so that they don't make themselves being seen, so that they're not being affected by the other parent. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you think back at how animals are, so an animal that is abused will be the type of that will become submissive. So an animal that's abused will drop down and all of a sudden roll over and put its legs up and become submissive, because if it is being abused, that animal will. And it's the same type of behavior that happens.
Oh, let me tell. I'll tell you an animal story. All right, so I moved in with my brother about 5 years ago. 5 years ago last month. Anyway, so I had this little dog. I think he was 6 months old at the time, Banshee. All right, so Al and I'd go to AA meetings because he has 35 years of sobriety. And so we'd go to AA meetings and we'd come back and the dog will have eaten the stuffing out of the arms of the couches in Al's house. Yeah. So the first day we come home to that and I see all this, I go, oh my God, Al, look what the dog did. What a mess. And he goes, oh, big deal. I said, your furniture. He goes, oh, it's old. just nothing would faze him. Nothing would faze him. And I'm very lucky because he never gets angry. And I think that's something that if you've been in AA long enough and you follow the program, you learn that, you know what is there to get me so bent out of shape that I'm going to, get all mad and have a fit. I haven't quite learned that yet, but Al seems to have it down. But, it's a beautiful thing to see because he loves that dog. And, the dog could pretty much do anything. The dogs own every piece of furniture in the house. Or I don't know, you guys have animals? They own every piece of furniture except my bed. I won't let them on my bed. But yeah, they own every. They even sit up on the kitchen chairs.
Well, I don't go that far, but they are very, very pure love. They're here for that, So I never scolded my dog. I mean, I would just look at him and he knew and never did it again. So I wish my children had been like that, but that didn't work. So yes, I do understand the dog thing.
Oh, and I'll tell you a child story if you're okay. So I'm taking these parenting lessons and my son's about 6. So, and we would go once a week. It was called Systematic Training for Effective Parenting. The writers were Dinkmeyer and McKay. Anyway, so every week for 2 hours, I would go to a lesson. So one day, Anthony comes home from school and he does something. I forgot what it was. And I told him to do something. And he looks at me and he goes, "Are you trying to use that psychology stuff on me again?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Well, it doesn't work." But he was wrong. It was working really well.
Oh, how cute. Yeah. Got to trick him sometimes.
Got to trick him sometimes. Yeah, exactly.
Part of being a mom.
So being somebody who has also gone through this whole, what makes you a mentor for somebody who is drinking, who has been through it, because you have gone through it and you still have to live that life. So every day it's a daily thing of making the choice of not to drink. It's not as if, and the same thing comes with dieting, not as severe, but if you eat too much after a while, you're going to cause artery problems. And it just can, unfortunately, especially in places like the US, the obesity rate is really skyrocketed and creates a massive push on the medical. I don't call it a healthcare system. We don't have it in Canada here either. I call it actually a sit care system, because if we were in a system when we're not going to get into politics here, but I believe is if we were in a proper healthcare system, then we would be working with people to not to get to the point where they're 100 pounds overweight. We'd be working with them before that even happens, before the diabetes sets in, before the heart attacks, and we start working with them even as children. And because, it's usually hereditary in a lot of ways. If the mother tends to not look if she doesn't know how to properly feed her family, and that it's part of education. She's going to be doing the same thing to her child that she has done to her. It just carries on. So in our own system here, but so I understand how you do that. How do you work with people so that they can start making changes in their lives? And we talk about the two systems to making the two decisions. It's not just in their lives. As parents, we're making decisions that are going to affect our children from years to come, right? So it's coming to a point where we can connect up with people so that they know that the decisions they make are really their decisions that are going to affect them for the rest of their lives. What is your way that you can get through to people in that way that they can sit back for a minute and say, you know what, I really need to start changing my life. I need to make that decision that's going to make me lose my weight, maybe this way that I'll be around for my children and my grandchildren, watch my kids get married. How many times do we see family members that die before they even have their children married or things like that? And we never know because we wait till it's too late. But we got to start now, because we can't wait for something to happen and then we get into the sick care system.
That's right. And if a woman gets to 50 and she doesn't have heart disease, she can expect to live to be 92.
Wow.
Woohoo! I got a long ways to go.
I know.
And Glenda, we'll be doing this for years.
Exactly. And that's why we have to live every day and we have to stay healthy. I was getting to the point where I was starting to limp. I was having aches and pains. And then I went to the gym. And all of that is gone. All of that is gone. Right. Because, I was starting to accept, well, you're old. Oh, for goodness sake, you're old. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Getting those kind of thoughts. And then I started thinking, well, where does this come from? These are crazy thoughts. As long as you're alive, you can help people and people need you.
Yes.
People need you. And so I got control of that. And what people don't realize, whenever you look outside yourself for an answer, whether it's a pill, surgery, there are risks. I have a friend who just had to have a hip replacement. Now, listen to this. Years ago, she got that stomach stapling or something.
Okay.
Well, what nobody told her was that by doing that, cutting out some of her stomach or stapling it, the body doesn't absorb nutrients. Well, those nutrients then don't get to the bones. The bones then decay. It's called the necrosis of the bones. She had to have a hip replacement. I mean, she was in so much pain. But if they had said to her, well, you know what, in 10, 15, 20 years, in addition to you probably gaining all the weight back and more, you're also going to have all these physical problems. Do you think she'd have done it?
No.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. But
we just don't know because, people look for shortcuts in life.
That's right.
And I think that's one of the things. It's part of the sick care system. I can't say we're all because I'm not one of those, but people look for shortcuts. It's look like take the diet pills and you'll lose 10 pounds. Right. What's going on now that there's the shot that you can get that it's actually meant for diabetes, and you take the shot and you'll start losing weight, and then once you do lose weight, that's part of the whole thing is we don't know what the end results is. Same like I'm not one listen to put putting in shots in your face so that you don't have wrinkles. Who knows what the side effects are going to be down the road?
Right.
I believe that I've earned my wrinkles. I've earned my gray hairs. Yeah, I'll color my hair.
Exactly.
I'm not going to, I don't use ammonia because I'm allergic to it. So I'm being careful of, it's more of natural things that I do. but I wouldn't do something is if of to start taking meds as a short-term diet pills to it. This is what we talked about earlier is what we need to do is change our behaviors.
That's right.
But we change our behaviors instead of taking the shortcuts, which turning into being the long cuts.
Oh,
Because,
goodness. And yeah,
right, look at all the things. Every drug that you touch has side effects.
that's right. And they turn on you. You know, I don't even take aspirin. I think I had a baby aspirin last year just because I came from that era where, you know, you don't take stuff when you're sick. My mother would be like, well, okay, it'll pass. This too will pass. You know, but we didn't take cold medicine or any of that stuff. It all has side effects. And then, you know, people are telling me these stories about going to the doctor and saying, I don't take any medicine. And the doctor's like, what? You don't take any medicine? What? You know, everybody's on something. Why? That's not the human condition is not supposed to be on meds. We're supposed to be natural and free.
Yeah. And that's why I think when Glenda talks about, you know, what people choose, I do believe that some people are very lazy and want that pill. They don't want to diet. They don't want to walk. They don't want to exercise. They want a pill, one pill that's going to do everything, not realizing in the long run, you're just destroying your health.
30 years ago, Cher said, if it came in a bottle, everybody'd have a good body.
Right. Yeah, she's right. She's right.
But if we learned that if we did just something a little bit in our lives to change ourselves by, you know, making the decision by cooking a meal instead of going to McDonald's. And it's so you know, it doesn't have to be, this is a thing of, it has to be, you know, a gourmet meal or anything. We can cook very easy, nutritious meals. It's quite easy nowadays, especially that there's a lot of things that are already prepared where vegetables, you can go in and already have vegetables that are already cut and clean for those people that don't have time to have them at least fresh in their fridge. There's so many ways of shortcuts to do things, but we have to learn in our lives that it's just important to, you know, to be real about our body, because when you start taking all of these other things, you're actually not in tune with what's going on in your body either.
Exactly. Yes. And you know, when you do the hard thing, life becomes easy. Do the easy thing, life becomes hard. So if you're constantly reaching for fast food and McDonald's and whatnot, guess what? Your life's going to become pretty hard. You're going to be limping, walker, wheelchair, nursing home. That's not my future. That's not that's not our future. You know, there's a 95-year-old woman. She's a gymnast. I was watching her. She's still doing flips and whatnot at 95. See, we got a wrong idea somewhere in here about aging. We got a wrong idea. These are the best years of my life. I am happier now than I've ever been. And you know what? Every day I make that choice. What's my intention today? What am I going to do to be happy today? I'm going to go to the gym. I'm not going to overeat. I'm going to help other people. I'm going to be useful. So yes. And then let me tell you a quick story about obesity. You know, there's a wrestler. Back when my son was young and my husband was alive, my husband died in 2008. We were married 25 years. But anyway, when Anthony was a baby, my husband used to watch wrestling with Ric Flair and all those old wrestlers, you know, The Undertaker, all that. Okay, well, we would watch that. And there was a wrestler called Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. Okay, now he's not wrestling anymore, but now he helps really obese people change their lives. Well, this one man, he weighed about 600 pounds, and all he had was his dog. One day, the dog had to go out, but this man couldn't get out of bed. He had gained so much weight that he didn't have the muscle strength to get up out of the bed. Wow. He rolled off the bed and rolled to the door to let his dog out. And that's the day that he contacted Diamond Dallas Page. Diamond Dallas Page put him on, if you cannot get up, and then he gave him exercises to do in the bed Start where you are. Then he graduated to a chair. Then he was walking. Then he lost 300 and something pounds. He's got an entirely different life now. But we have to start where we are, and do not get depressed. And if you do, you got to let it go and say, you know what? Now's my moment of power. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. And it doesn't matter how drunk I am, how alcoholic I am, what a drug addict I am, how fat I am. Today I can change. This minute is where my power is, and this minute can change everything.
What a beautiful message to us, to telling everyone. Very powerful. Martha, what can I say? It has been an absolute delight having you here today. I love your stories, and what you just said now, I think, is one of the most powerful messages that people can have out there. Start where you are now.
That's
Stop
right.
regretting what yesterday was, beating yourself up because you didn't do what you're supposed to do, that you should have done. If we stopped shitting ourselves so much, then we would have more time for what we need to have moving forward. So before we go and just any other little nugget that you would like to leave the audience with today?
Oh, yes. Something I love to tell people is listen to everyone as if they know something you don't.
Oh.
Because I was in Vancouver and got on a bus with my friend, and there was a homeless man. He looked homeless. And there was a very scary man. And the homeless man said, "Come here, sit next to me. I'll keep you safe." Well, then we got to talking. And he was so interesting. He was telling about his girlfriend, about his life, and this and that, and his job. And we just had a great time. And we got off the bus, and he told us where the safe neighborhoods were, and where you get off the bus to be safe. And we got off the bus, and my friend said, "Martha, you treated him like a human being." I said, "What are you talking about? He is a human being." And he was so interesting, and I really enjoyed the conversation. She goes, "Most people wouldn't treat him like that." See, and that's what we have to remember. Everybody's a human being and needs attention and needs respect. And that's what they say too about drug addicts. We pull them away from their families and away from their support system when what they need is more support and more help. So
beautiful messages, Martha. Thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And where can people get in touch with you, Martha?
My website, marthaburich.com, MarthaBurich.com. Also on Facebook, Martha Burich, and Instagram.
Perfect. Well, we'll have everybody looking out for you, and Martha's got such words of wisdom and so much knowledge and experience, like we talked about.
Oh, and I do have something on my website, if they want it, 7 ways to change your life now. And that's free. So if they just go to the website and put in their email address, I'll send it right to them.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Nicole, what can you tell us about today? What would your
Glenda, this has been great today. And first of all, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to go stalk her and find every place she is. I absolutely loved the information, but I think the most important thing for me, and I've always talked to my girls about this, and that's just kindness and human decency. There's not one of us that wants to be treated like we're worthless or we're not seen or you're not worthy of me talking to you. And I see that a lot. I've seen it. I despise it. And so I always told my girls, kindness is free. Just be kind. Open a door, just smile. You don't have to do that much, but there's no one that doesn't deserve that, if you will. Now, I know there's mental illness. I know there's certain things. I get that. But I think the most important thing is be kind to humans, be kind to animals, be kind to anyone, and live in that moment. Just take that moment, because as we know in this universe, everything that you do circles back to you. So do you want to treat someone really crummy and have that come back? Or would you like to just smile at someone and have that come back to you? It's your choice. You get to make the choices. That's the beauty of the universe. So
right.
for me, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be nice. I'm going to use really positive words. And, hopefully if I can do nothing else, I can make someone happy for a brief moment.
Yes,
Absolutely.
beautiful. That's a beautiful message.
Thank you.
It's gorgeous. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Please remember that we're here so that we can spread a little bit of understanding. We can educate you in any sort of way that it's possible, create some ways of also, allowing you to start looking at yourself and your life, because it all starts just where you are right now. Just like we said earlier, the past is there to teach us lessons. Look back, but only stay there as if you're looking in the rearview mirror. You're meant to start where you are right now. And remember, it is all about you. Thank you today for joining us on a beautiful day. Martha, it was an absolute pleasure. And thank you for joining us, for being here today and giving our viewers some really important thoughts.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, ladies. Really enjoyed it. You have a
I
great
did as
show.
well. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.